Critical Role Campaign 4 is 7 episodes deep, 8 tomorrow, and there are a lot of theories and conspiracies about the campaign already. So what are they? That's what we're going to talk about in this video, and I'm going to share what I think about them. Do I put any weight in them? Things like that. So we're going to have a little bit of fun, but before we do, if you enjoy Critical Role, Dungeons & Dragons, and other nerd culture content, please consider subscribing to the channel, giving this video a thumbs up, and leaving a comment down below to help me with the algorithm and get more of me and yours. Now let's talk about these theories. So number one that I heard for quite a while is that Kattigan is Wulferic or Wulferic is Kattigan. I put no stock in this. I don't think this is the case. Robbie has said a lot of things that go against this. He said it's just a wolf and things like that during the game. He talked about building out these characters and things like that, and that it's just a man and his best friend, aka a man and a dog, a man and a wolf. There's been nothing that has led me to believe that. Even the things that people have tried to point out with like, oh, he eats this way. He's a man from the woods. Like, yeah, he might be shoveling some food into his mouth. Oh, the dog sneezed right there. Robbie himself said in an interview where he was like, nope, it was just me trying to like play both characters at once, and that he would probably sneeze to some, spices and things like that. So this one, I'm not a huge believer in. I know there are those who still do. And hey, if Robbie wants to come out and say, hey, I tricked you all, then well, that's going to be for a lot of these. The next one is Wick as Tyranny's patron. This would be very interesting. We of course know she's a warlock, her powers coming from somewhere, but she's also a demon, a fiend demon. And so it's kind of like, that would make more sense for me unless there's some secret stuff we find out that it normally comes from, right? Your pact comes from like a powerful being who has granted you these powers. I'm not sure that's what Wick is. I mean, not yet at least. And so that would be very interesting to me unless they greatly change how these things work. And it's like, oh, she was getting power from him. He didn't know how powerful he was, blah, blah, blah. Like, sure, maybe, but this is another one that's not getting my stamp of likely. Then we have that Tyranny is actually in the body of Wick's former lover. So we found out that he used to be in love with a commoner. His family was like, no, you can't be with her. We have to have you marry these other people that are good for the family, all that sort of stuff. And so at a point, he took a picture, he looked at it before he left, and then he took it out, folded up, and put it in his bag. And Tyranny was like, I was watching him, I saw it. So to me, that means she probably would have been like, wait, is that me? Why do you have a picture of us? Unless she already knew. And if she did, this feels like something that's just being intentionally buried, which I don't love. Like, I don't love the idea that it was put in front of us. Both characters knew what was going on. The DM knew what was going on, but fed it in a way as if nobody knew other than him. And so it would just be positioned in a very like, oh, this is an entertainment production thing and very much not D&D. And that's fine. That is what it is, but it wouldn't feel good to me. So that's why I think part of me is against that. I'm not saying it's not possible because they could do it like that. They could have that she sees that picture and it's her. Now, she didn't react to it, which means she definitely knew. I think with everything else and how just free and saying random things and thoughts that she's been, if she saw her and didn't know about it ahead of time, she would have reacted. That it's so out of character if she wouldn't have. So if they chose not to, it means that they are deliberately, as players, choosing to hide this from us for like a reveal later. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm hoping it's not likely. The next one is that Thiazi is still alive. Now, there are thoughts that we'll get into with the next conspiracies or theories that he may be around in some other way and doing some things behind the scenes in the underworld and things like that. Do I think he's alive? No, I think his neck got snapped and he died. So I'm not going with that one. Am I saying he can't come back? Am I saying that he's not secretly in the, behind the veil? No, I think that is possible, which is the next point. Somebody had the theory that Thiazi is in the underworld kind of fighting against Akonis. And we did have the vision from Octus about an orc standing there in the underworld, or whatever you want to call it, behind the veil, undead armies. It's completely possible that Thiazi is there, kind of continuing his plan from that place. Maybe it was always a part of his plan. This I'm open to. I do think Thiazi is not quite out of this picture yet. So this one, I'm going to give a likely. The next conspiracy is really interesting. I hadn't thought of it at all. And it is that little coffin, that chest, that halfling coffin that they found the mask in for a second, that clay mask, was actually a trap from Thiazi to catch Bolaire in. That would be really cool, right? They had them bring it over and then they pull the mask out. They find that it's like a halfling coffin and it's related to the trickster god or whatever, and it has the mask. I could see it. I could see that being a really cool theory. I like it. Do I think it was likely? I'm 50-50 on that. But either way, I like where that mind went because I didn't think of that one. Another conspiracy is that the players are like manifestations of the god, like Tayor's manifestation of god of the sun, like Tanzel and things like that. A lot of these conspiracies are linked to the gods in some way. This one being that all the players are essentially, or that most of the group is going to become a god in some way, like they're aspects of the gods. I hope not, and I don't think so. I think there could be some time. Maybe Octus gets something with that because he's all special and unique. Maybe Wick gets something. But other than that, I wouldn't even like it if that was the case. I'm not a huge fan of when it's just like, oh, everybody became a god. Like, it's just not my cup of tea, but maybe it's yours. That's fine. Another Thiazi theory is that he was working to bring back the gods. That's why he was collecting all these things and working in secret and had all this stuff going on. He's trying to bring back the gods. I'd rate that one as very possible. I do think that that is a plot point and a theory that really does fit potentially. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I think that if that was the case, there would be very few people who'd be like, wow, that's shocking to me. They'd go, oh yeah, that makes sense. That I could see why that would happen, given all the bad stuff that's happened since, and that now these houses like the Taconis family are taking over. But at the same time, Taconis and Halavar, they have fought on the side of the gods, so there's still some question marks. Next up is that the shadow following Julien is him becoming an Echo Knight, and that will take the form of Thiazi. That seems to me where most people are thinking with that. They think that this shadow, this curse, is eventually him becoming an Echo Knight, which could either be next level or in 2 levels, depending on how he levels up, right? Because he's a fighter and a rogue, which means once he hits level 3, he can get a subclass in fighter if it's level 3 in fighter. That's another one I don't think anyone would be surprised if the shadow thing was the start of him becoming an Echo Knight, and then if it was Thiazi because he spit on Thiazi's corpse to cause the shadow to appear to begin with. And they seem to have a little bit more history that we don't know about. The next theory is that the players will find a way to open the Fae and restore the gods. Now, this one was interesting when they wrote it because the Fae isn't what's holding the gods. So it's kind of like 2 separate things. So they'll find a way to open the Fae. I agree. I think that's going to happen. But that won't bring the gods back, right? Like, this are kind of separate problems to a degree. But I think either one is possible. And of course, the theory that the gods aren't even dead. They're just not around. That's what somebody thinks, at least one of the theories, and I think some other people believe this as well. The gods were not actually killed. They were just kind of sent off somewhere. And maybe they still have power. Maybe they're gaining power back. Maybe they said, fine, if you want to kill us, we're just going to go hang out somewhere else. Leave you to your own devices. This is the one that I could see. Yeah, I could see that they're not actually dead. I think they are, but I can see that they're not. And the final one we're going to talk about is that Thiazi had to be killed by the Sundered Houses because he was becoming the god of war due to being like the rebellion, the face of like the resistance. They said Thiazi, the shaper of revolution, and that Octus and Wikander were failed attempts to create the new gods. I don't think any of this fits. I would not really believe in any of this. I don't think that Octus or Wikander were failures to become because they were kind of just outcast from the family from the get-go. And I don't think the Sundered Houses killed Thiazi because they realized he was becoming the god of revolution. So it's an interesting one. And it's out there. It's out of the box, which I like. I like, again, like one of the other ones, I like when people are thinking outside of the box, right? I like when they're like, ooh, here's what I see this, but this isn't one that I really believe in. And this is where I've kind of noticed I'm not a big conspiracy guy because I don't believe a lot of these. But what do you think? I want to know your thoughts. Do you have different ones? Do you like some of these? Share all of those thoughts down in the comments below. And once again, if you like nerd culture stuff like Critical Role, Dungeons and Dragons and more, subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below to help me with the algorithm and get more of me in yours. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, good luck in your adventures.